What you're looking at right here is the sink in Indy, which is my mobile office. And you may recognize this as a pretty standard stainless steel commercial sink that you've seen in bars and restaurants. And the reason that they have that is the same reason I picked it, which is that I've had this thing for about 2 years and put all sorts of gross chemicals and other things in here, and it's held up amazingly well. In addition to that, it's also really, really lightweight in comparison to a lot of the other designs. But this one works a lot differently than pretty much any other sink you've probably seen. So I figured I would take the time and make a video and explain all of that for you here. This sink is pretty deep. That's a pint glass that you're looking at right there. And you can actually fill the entire thing up with water, and it will definitely support its own weight, even though, as you can see, it's actually entirely floating. So there is nothing here at all that's actually holding it up. It is mounted directly on the wall. So it is very, very strong. And it looks like we've skipped ahead to the other section we have here, is where in the event you do have this full of dishes, like pint cups there, you can still use this as a flat surface to put something on top of, especially if it's something that's kind of dripping, like if you came inside really, really sweaty or in from the rain, you could just throw your shirts right on top of this and it'll drip directly into the sink, so it doesn't drip on the floor after you've initially wrung it out into the sink. And I can tell you that from experience. And when it's in travel, it should kind of lock in place just about right there. And that should keep all the towels and everything from driving forward. And we'll see how that works in practice. But typically, if it can move during travel, it will. But getting back to the sink here, I want to focus. There's two handles, a red and a blue. And in most situations that is for hot water and cold, but in mine I actually have two different water sources. The red is either going to be your city water source if you're hooked up to pressurized water, or it's going to be from the red pump, or in my case it's coming from a special, or it could also come from a tie-in pressure tank as an auxiliary input. And the blue is going to be for purified water, so that water has been exposed to ozone and UV light inside of a stainless steel brewing kettle, pressurized brewing kettle. And so you can use that for brushing your teeth or washing your face. The water that we actually drink comes out of the hot and cold water dispenser, and that is that same water from the blue handle ran through the reverse osmosis again, and then put into the hot and cold water dispenser that has additional UV and ozone that runs periodically through the day to keep that water nice and clean. In my initial design for this sink, I planned on having a purified drinking water dispenser be on either one of these sides. However, due to the height restrictions, I just couldn't find one that was short enough that actually clear this cabinetry up here. So, and while still allowing for a glass this size or a little larger to easily slip in and out. So I just was unlucky in finding that. So I ended up going with a glass rinser like this like this one right here, also in the stainless steel that matches. And this high pressure stream that spins a little top under pressure does a lot better job of cleaning out smoothie cups and instant coffee than I would if I were to turn on the faucet and fill it up and pour it out, or scrub it out and then scrub it and then fill it and do it that way. Just way more efficient, which is why they use them at restaurants and in bars and other commercial settings. The other reason is to control the water is actually this little switch right here. So when you flip this up when you're brushing your teeth or something, the water will continue to drip, and then when you flip it back down, it'll go back to its full flow. And that's just so that you can very quickly turn it off without adjusting the maximum flow, because you get anywhere from off to about 1 gallon per minute, which is actually slower than you're going to find in pretty much any house or, oops, giving it away, in pretty much any house or apartment. There we go. And over here we have a soap dispenser for washing dishes along with a sponge. Nothing too exciting about that, but what I did give away about this is the fact that, oops, as I break my UV tube, that this entire cabinet actually does slide out against the wall. And you can see how far it slides out. I have it go all the way up to here, as I don't want anyone spitting behind the void behind the sink there. But it does slide all the way out, and the reason for that is so that when you go to lean over this and brush your teeth, you're not going to crack your head on this cabinet up here. You're going to just be able to stand in front of it and really utilize it, because it's sticking out, let's see here, about that far into my arm. So it's a pretty good distance there. And then as you push it back, it goes through and it actually just locks in place with these drawer slides, and now it's stuck into place unless I were to push it on both sides and slide it out. But if you do it nice and uniformly and push it evenly, both sides click together at once, and it looks really, really nice. And that's one of the most unique things about this, because I've never seen anyone put a sink on a slider before. And then furthermore, that also gives you some additional countertop space, so when you're cooking you can slide this thing out and you can put things on top of here, particularly things that are very hot, as this is also designed to be a trebuchet, some fancy French word that means you put hot pans and hot dishes on there. This is again stainless steel, and they are just hollow stainless steel tubes. They can hold quite a bit of weight. This sink can also hold quite a bit of weight. Like, you could fill the whole thing up with water, but it's probably wouldn't exceed 20 pounds or so. So this is more for hot food, not for like a dog or something, or to sit on as a seat. You know, it's just designed for that. And of course it just is tall enough to clear the glasses and other dishes that you'd have in there, to give you some additional space, because it's pretty limited here. Despite the popularity of this commercial sink, I was not able to find any of those custom cut drop-in cutting boards that I've seen fit directly into the sink, and you can use those as a place to chop vegetables, and then you just toss the scraps directly into the sink and then wash them as well. And this was kind of the next best thing that I saw, and when I found that it was also stainless steel and seemed to have the same kind of finish and match more or less the directions, I did custom cut it a little bit down to size, but I got it to fit exactly perfectly, and I'm really happy with the look of it. Even just for, I think this right here gives it like an interesting aesthetic to it, especially since you can use this area right back here to put towels and such into, like when they're going to dry. If you have a wet towel, you can actually just kind of loop it through there and do it that way. Or at least that's the theory. Haven't really got too much of a chance to use this as I just put it in. However, I figured I would go through and explain my sliding mechanism to anyone who is interested. I did put this in 2 years ago, and it's been running ever since. It's a combination of 3M VHB tape plus their primer, plus, as you can see there, 2 relatively big screws that go into the wall there. So glue it and screw it. And then the aluminum is very thin, 1/16 of an inch, I do believe. And so it's cut with scissors, and then it is riveted together. And like I've said before, that has supported the weight of this thing with 2 gallons of water in it, possibly more. And just kind of what it looks like from underneath. And what you're looking at right here is actually the hot water heater. And you can see the attachment points from the other side. This is color coded with red and blue corresponding to the handle color, and yellow is for the hot water heater. And if you ever wanted to switch them out, you would just be able to pull the blue tube out of here and then swap it with red if you wanted to do that. And this hot water heater right here is actually pulled from a bidet. There are several reasons for that, which I can get into now, but the biggest one was the fact that it is exceptionally small, and it also will plug into a standard electrical outlet. It does not require special wiring and a big breaker. It does pull the maximum power from that outlet though at over 1500 watts, but not ever once over 1600. And my outlets typically have a max of 1800. So something else small, like a TV, laptop, whatever, also can run on that outlet when it's running. But it does need its own dedicated outlet. And that's it right there. Let's see if I can get a view from up above there. Not the most beautiful install, but I didn't have a lot of space between the wall and the hot water heater, but it does fit, and there's about enough room for me to run my pinky between the wall and the plastic backing of the hot water heater. And as you can see that right there, this is a similar type of plastic that I think is in blister packaging. That's the stuff that's really hard to cut apart with scissors. It's that, and you can see the hot water terminals there. They're wrapped twice, once really tight with the thermoplastic to keep any kind of abrasion or water or anything from touching those, and then again secondarily along with a large slope, so that if water was going to drip into this, it's just going to flow from one side to the other, and it's not going to try to pool around that. But even if it did, it's entirely encapsulated in plastic, so you'd have to have about an inch of water standing on that before it would come into contact. And I just figured I'd try to give you the other angle of the view from it. With better heat guns and some better tooling, this design could actually probably give really nice results. I didn't notice any banging or discoloration when I was inspecting it, so I don't think it's moving during travel. And this is a special RV drain that I got that has that 90-degree, and it fits into this tubing there, which is listed as 3/4 of an inch inner diameter. And this goes down there. The raise right here is purposeful, and it's designed to create essentially a P-trap with the water from the sink coming down here, making sure this is empty, and then coming into here, and then coming up, and then coming down. If this is higher than the sink, then you'll get water collecting in here, which you don't want. And you can actually pump this thing down purposefully and drain it in order to clear this and then pull it back up. So that's designed so that you can manage your P-trap depending on how often this is being used. Which brings me to the slide-out drawer, and underneath this black cover here, if I can get it open, yes, is a typical marine sink pump. You put this in the bottom of the deck, and the water from your sink flows into this, and then once it's full, it pops back up again. And inside of this water tank, I also have a UV light that turns on and off, which is why it's covered in black plastic here, because you don't want to let that shine directly on your skin, or you don't want to see it glowing with your eyes. So you want to make sure that it's fully covered. And that keeps the smoothies and toothpaste and everything else from mixing together and starting its little colony of life. The UV light just kind of kills all that and keeps the smell down. So even pulling this open, you would think it would kind of smell the same way it would when you've ever opened up the drain of a sink, but no, it doesn't have any smell to it. Even though the water is pretty dark because it's a lot of coffee and smoothies. And leak detection sensors, water testing strips, the soap for the soap dispenser, and a handful of other supplies go underneath this. Gotta push that down all the way. There we go. The cover fits nicely snug onto there so it doesn't move or shake, and then everything folds nicely in. So when this is in travel, everything is nice and flush, but then when you need to move it, this bottom tray pulls out, and the sink also pulls out, so you can use it a lot better. A lot easier to access that way. Now jumping over to the front side of the cab behind the driver's seat, this would previously hold the access to the oxygen canisters that you can open up, but now it holds the hot and cold water dispenser right there. So you just take your cup and go ahead and fill it up. There is a drip tray down there to catch any excess water, and I have this automatically turn on in the mornings, so we have nice hot water between 6 a.m. and I think about 7:45 is when it'll shut off. I can just turn it back on again with my phone, or if I need to, I can go around back and flip a switch and it'll turn back on again. And so they don't need to run all the time. This is in an outside bay because similar to a refrigerator, the back of this thing actually does get quite a bit hot. So this, along with the dishwasher and the freezer, are all stored in this bay in order to make sure that their heat does not enter into the living area there. And this all runs off of a pressure tank, so even if there is no power to the plumbing system, this is always going to work, even without any power. Which is what you see right now because all of the lights are off. If there is power to it, then it'll automatically go ahead and that light is going to stay on. And that basically just prevents the thing from refilling. So if you were to go ahead and press in on this thing and discharge water, you can do that, and you get about a gallon of water out of it before it's emptied, but it's not going to automatically refill again because there's no power. So it's simply just a way to limit how much water comes out of this. Specifically, if I continue with my initial plan, which was to let this be public facing, I wanted everyone to be able to have nice cold water, but not more than a gallon of it because I really don't have that much in my 4-gallon tank and I can't let them empty me out. So that was a good way for me to control that process there. And this just works really, really nice, and it keeps us drinking water and not going to soda or anything else that's in a can or a bottle. Alright, so I've moved outside and you're looking at the opposite end of that bay, and so you can also access hot and cold water from outside. You don't have to go inside, open the door and get it and then leave, which I found was that letting in a lot of the heating and cooling by constantly opening up that door, so you have access to it on the outside. You can also access the switches here and some additional reset switches there for lights and such. And then below that there's the dishwasher and the freezer and above it is the 13-gallon water container that I'm using here, which has both ozone and UV going through it, and it's the combination of both of those sterilization methods that I needed to go with something that was actually used to brew alcohol, because only